Hey, what is up, everybody? This is your girl, Martha D. Staub, owner of MDMC Entertainment. And I am so excited because I have a guest. I know everyone loves it when we have guests on the show. And today is a pretty cool one. He started out as a graphic designer and now he is running his own booking agency. And he's making some waves, especially around Free Comic Book Day. Please welcome Brandon Benfield of Studio 43 Production and Design. What is going on? Did I get all that right?
You did. You did. Hey, Martha, I'm glad to be here. Huge fan of the show. Huge fan of your, well, I shouldn't say huge fan, I guess. Huge supporter of your work. I've definitely been seeing you over the last few years grow, and it's just amazing to see friends grow like this, and I appreciate your support as well.
Oh man, it's yeah, like we were just saying, like, we both started in a very I started in the Star Trek world. I think around 2014. That's kind of where I got my start in working with celebrity talent and things like that. And then I fell down the rabbit hole in Power Rangers, and then I haven't been able to leave the rabbit hole ever since.
Yeah, I completely understand that wholeheartedly. So
Yeah, I mean, like, we've branched off, and we work with a lot of WWE talent now, but we still primarily live in the Power Ranger hole, and it's just so ironic. I arrived in this rabbit hole 2017. I have made so many amazing friends, and you're one of them. Like, I
yeah.
remember we've run into each other quite a bit on the road, Lexington, Stealth Con. Remember that show when we were out up late eating pizza with the Power Rangers?
Yeah, and I feel like the first time you and I met, was it Villains Con in Chicago? Were you at that one?
No, we met at Lexington. I had arrived at Lexington with Roger. No one knew I was going to show up. I
Okay.
kind of just popped in, and I remember a lot of people hating me at that show because they were like, "What the hell?" Like, it was, for me, it was a big thing. Like, and Roger knew. He was like, "It's okay." There
Sure.
was a there was a lot of little drama that happened there, but I kind of just stayed back. But it was funny because I would see people walk by and give me dirty looks. I was like, "What the hell? I don't know you people."
Yeah.
You know what it's like.
I do remember that show now. Actually, I believe in my photo book, my photo with Roger is from that show because he was wearing a green shirt, had the two helmets. I was like, okay, that's the perfect pose. You know me. I'm a little bit of a photo and autograph snob, so like I like to have my stuff a certain way. So anyway,
I remember you were like, let's take it vertically, let's take it horizontally. I was like, all right, dude. Look, okay.
yeah,
Yeah. That was a fun show. But we've ever since, I mean, a good core of my people that I've met in the Power Ranger world are my people now that they're in New York, and like I've been
sure.
like best friends, and it's just amazing how tight knit this community is and what has come from it since then. It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get started about you. So you started out as are you a college graduate? I've meant to ask.
I have a 2-year degree. I have an associate's degree in graphic design. Originally from Battle Creek, Michigan, is where I'm from. So Kellogg Community College. Yes, that's where Kellogg's is from. It's where Kellogg's Post, Ralston's. It's where they all, or General Mills, I guess is what they're called. They all started in my town. So that's kind of what we're known for, and not much else. So, but yep. So I got my 2-year degree there. Yeah, that's where I started learning graphic design. I feel like though, it's hard to just say, well, I got my 4-year degree and now I know everything, because that is not the truth. I mean, it's more about the self-study of it yourself. So I mean, I feel like if I could have a PhD based on just being able to do self-study in graphic design, I feel like I would have it by now. Just because I feel like I've had to evolve with the software and, learn new techniques, and, even like other techniques I didn't learn from just designers, but also photographers. My best friend's wife was a photographer at one point, and she showed me how to do some stuff. And I'm like, that's something I never learned in class, but I'll definitely use it on my projects now. So
It's such a jip. I mean, I went to school for public relations. I got my bachelor's in it, my master's in sports public relations because I wanted to work for the NFL at one point.
Sure.
And literally everything that I learned in college did not apply to the real world. It wasn't until I got my first job as a marketing coordinator at a small family owned business that I had the GM was a VP of marketing.
Mhm.
And literally between him and another vendor who's now my business partner, um, I sat in marketing meetings every Friday from 9 a.m. to noon, even longer. And that was like the core of where I learned everything. And it was like sitting in an auditorium in college. Like I just learned so much there. The real world teaches you more than what a classroom does. And that's a sad fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
What?
it's a sad fact in the sense of a requirement. So like, it's for the next thing, I guess, because it's like when you're trying to like, let's say you got let go because of COVID, or you just want to move on to something else and do another job. But it's like, I know this field front and back, left and right, but it's like you go to the next place and it's like, well, we'd like to see your credentials. It's like, look at my experience. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Our co CEO is going through that as well. I told him he goofed around a bit getting associate's degrees, and I was like, just hurry up and get the bachelor's. Like that's what everyone requires. And I know it's tedious that you have to do it, but it's your ticket in the door, and
Sure.
it kind of sucks that real life experience sometimes you have to fight for that. You have to really convey that in interviews, and sometimes it sucks. It's still a standard, but
Yeah.
is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
So what got you into graphic design? What was that motivator that said, you know what, I'm gonna sit through college and learn this?
So it was actually like a legit like fork in the road. Growing up, I wanted to be a church singer. I wanted to be a church like worship pastor. Like is what I was. That was, some people want to be ninjas when they were a kid, and they wanted to be a Power Ranger. Maybe I wanted to be a worship pastor because I love to sing and I love to do all that. So like I went through the band and everything, and so one day at high school, they were like, well, hey, we've got this field trip planned for everybody, for all you sophomores. I was a sophomore in high school. And they were like, well, hey, we're taking everybody to the tech center. It was a vocational center. You could do like alternative learning. Like there's math science centers for people. Maybe, I don't know if they do that everywhere else, but you can go to like a math science center to learn advanced like math and science and, like practical math and science. Or you can go to the tech center, and it's now called the Career Center, but back then it was the Calhoun Area Technology Center. And they had all sorts of things. You could learn nursing, like electronics, networking, all these things. And they kind of gave you a breakdown of it. And I was looking at them, and I think the first one I took was like for that day, because you split it in a half day. So I think it was electronics and then graphic design. And I said, well, this is interesting. Okay, I'm pretty set on what I want to do for a career, but why don't I just do it to get out of school and just to kind of, be able to take a break? So I went, and the big appeal was like, oh, you get to learn how to do silkscreen t-shirts. And I was like, oh, that's really awesome. So you kind of got to sit with the students and kind of see what they were learning, and they showed you like a demo of what the shirt making was like, and that really like it was weird. It was like a tap in my brain of like, hey, you could do this, and so
Yeah.
I kind of stuck with still the church singing thing that I wanted to do all the way up until my senior year. At the end of my senior year, I actually went to a college over spring break in Oklahoma. I took a bus down there and was like, oh man, this is something I really want to do. But, financial aid didn't happen the way we wanted it to. And so I ended up taking a semester off. And that's when I was like, well, I had that graphic design thing. So I did end up going to the tech center for the last 2 years of my high school career, or whatever. I ended up getting 20 college credits just out of high school. And so I was like, well, I've got that in my back pocket. Why don't I just try to expand on that and go back to school and do that? So after that semester off, I kind of, got more into it and got more into it. And it's just something that it grew, and it's like, all right, well, I mean, plan B is becoming more like plan A. So why not go for it? So yeah, that's kind of where it came from for me. That was like the initial start of it. So
I love it. That's like a great calling. It just came out of nowhere,
yeah. Yeah.
And of course, you've held many positions throughout your life with, graphic design, and obviously I'm not gonna lie, I've actually seen some of your old work and like your current work, and it's just like the growth between your skills have just gotten so much better.
I take that as an absolute compliment, and I also 120% agree with you.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I talked about being like a little bit of an autograph snob earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I still, like, when I meet a new Power Ranger or something, I still use my old design, and I'm like, I really wish I could just update this and I'd be okay with it. But the OCD in me wants them all to match. So it's like I still keep that original old design, but it works. But it's just like, man, this could look so much better. Like I've done so many better prints for so many people, and it's just anyway. So yeah, I definitely can see the growth, and I appreciate you noticing that. And yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I've seen that as well in myself.
I remember because at StealthCon, so I was working Jorgito Vargas's table, and Kelly was like, "Oh, that's a Brandon print," and I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And I don't know why I guess I was prepping mentally in my brain for this, but I was like, I remember that print, and then I remember like just recently with the banners that we just got done with for Semi Valley, like
Yep.
night and day. It looks you're just getting so much better as you go.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so tell us how you fell in the Power Ranger rabbit hole. It's a great story, guys. If you guys haven't heard it.
Yeah, so that's a big story. So obviously I've been a fan since I was a kid. I was that kid who, and my mom totally denies it, but I came home from school one day and she said, I recorded a show for you and it's Power Rangers. And I was like, oh my goodness, let me see. So like I watched it, and in my town, the first episode they didn't air was the premiere. It wasn't the premiere. It was the one where they were all at the carnival and like Trini's cousin got turned into a cardboard thing. Yeah. The pineapple monster guy. That was the first episode they aired in my town. They didn't air the first one, but that was the first episode of Rangers I ever saw. Good episode though. So then like I think they played them in order after that, and it was like I watched never stopped from there. And then I got all the way up to like Lost Galaxy, loved it, and then Lightspeed Rescue happened, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like they don't everybody knows who they are. They don't teleport anymore, and it's just kind of they might as well just be first responders. That's kind of when I fell off the show, like, and I ended up like just kind of watching every premiere and seeing if I liked it or not. Loved Time Forest, didn't really like Wild Forest, and so on. So, but then the 20th anniversary came back around, and Comic-Con started getting way bigger, and this is where I looked to the great one for really good, like a good quote. Wayne Gretzky, the one that said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I was starting to do the conventions like back in 2012, just kind of going as a fan. And one day my buddy and I ran into a comic book writer named Mark Waid, real big into like the Justice League stuff. He wrote a lot of that. He wrote Kingdom Come, and he was like walking around just as a fan buying comic books. I'm like, Mark Waid, how are you? We started talking, and I learned that he lived 45 minutes from me in Indiana. And so I was like, dude, this is kind of weird, but like, would you ever want to get lunch with us sometime? And he said, sure, why not? And it's like, wow, a guy who's written all these legendary comics wants to have lunch with little old us. And so I was like, well, I took a shot. And so the first time I kind of put that into practice. And so the first time I ever met Walter Jones, original Black Power Ranger, I had this idea for a t-shirt. And I said, well, why not ask him? Like, let's just see if he'd be interested. So it was, like, as everybody kind of knows, like Walter Jones, like Zach had his like school for hip hop keto or whatever. Like he taught hip hop keto, and I had one of those ideas to do like a variety shirt, like like Walter White's blue candy, like they make those funny shirts, like Los Palos Amigos from Breaking Bad, or whatever that restaurant's called. Like they make those. So I had a fun one that was, Zachary Taylor School for Hip Hop Keto, and it was like the symbol with like two people kicking and dancing and stuff, and it was like one of his quotes. He loved the idea. He sold the shirt at different cons and such, and that I was like, wow, that's another opportunity that I would have missed had I not taken a chance. So, and then from that point, it was one of those things where like Austin St. John was coming back from the military. I started like, working with him, and he and Walter both like wanted, promos for their appearances and such. And then it happened for David Yost and other people in that agency. Then I met Catherine Sutherland and Karen Ashley, and it just kind of snowballed from there. So that's where I really got started doing that. So, yeah.
That's cool. The pineapple monster guy lives down the street from me, not gonna lie.
Does he really? See, that's the thing. I was so busy meeting Rangers that year, and he was in costume, and I really wanted to get a photo of them in that. I hope he does it again whenever they can have PMC again.
It's so funny because one of our friends was living in this cul-de-sac, and this guy came out, and I was like, that guy looks familiar. And we found out, he's like, yeah, that's the pineapple monster. I was like, no way. And then, of course, when we went to PMC, we said hi to him and everything. And then we got he did his voice and everything, and sent a voicemail to our friend and says, you're a dick, Chris, but in the pineapple monster voice. It was great.
Sure.
That's funny as fuck. So, and then, okay, so yeah, of course, I've seen you through over the years. You have just been progressing in, this world, and then eventually I saw you became like a pretty helpful addition to Ranger Stop. Like,
yep.
you fell into that, and I think was this the stepping stone that leads you to being a booking agent?
Somewhat, yeah. So I met Mikey at Lexington, I want to say 2015. It might have been 14. I can't remember which. It was either one of those years. It was their year 3. And I said, hey, I met him at Lexington. And I said, hey, would you be interested in working, like me working for you, doing some graphics and stuff, and maybe like giving the website a refresh or something. And so, yeah, that year they had like the website was already pretty much like halfway done. So I just kind of continued doing maintenance on that one while I could. And then, yeah, I totally revamped the entire website for that, did all the guest announcements for that one. And then so on and so forth. So that was year 3. I've been with the show since. So whenever they can have the show again, it's going on year 8. Yes, it did. So year 7, I kind of came up with this idea because as much as we all love, and again, I will always love Mighty Morphin, In Space, Time Force. Those are some of the greatest seasons ever, right? But Power Ranger fans, I've come to realize, are almost like Pokemon fans, where it's like, you got to catch them all. Like, you got to meet them all, and like for us who are diehards, who have been fans, and, I know I said I kind of fell off, but, I went back and I rewatched a lot of the seasons, and I'm actually going through some of the ones that I haven't watched. Like, so I just finished Mystic Force. I'm getting ready to go through Overdrive right now, which I know people criticize that one a lot. I don't mind it. I from the episodes I've seen, I'm there. It's okay. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I want to be able to say, hey, I've seen every episode, but every season I've seen the key episodes, so I know the story, like kind of beginning to end. It's that middle meat that I'm trying to get. But anyway, that's off topic. But so anyway, I said to Mikey, I said, I've got this idea, if you wouldn't mind hearing it. And so we met, and I said, look, the fans want to see overseas guests. And I was like, that's a huge thing. What if I had this idea for a sponsorship program where it's like, kind of people pitch in a little bit, and, we kind of try to bring some of these over. Well, we found that there was a lot more of an interest than just a few bucks. And we were able to, there was a lot of technicalities in that, but like, we were able to bring over 8 international guests that year, I believe. And so
huge. I remember.
Yeah, it was huge. They were so busy that weekend, and it was just, I don't know, it was amazing. Like, huge Mystic Force reunion. We had James Davies from Dino Charge. Dwayne Cameron was there. I'm trying to think. Algina Bella. It's so funny because I was, I hadn't even watched much of Jungle Fury yet. And I'm like, who's the rarest guy I can think of?
Yeah.
Algina Bella, the Blue Ranger from Jungle Fury. I've never really seen a lot of requests for him. And I'm like, I bet people would love to meet that guy. And sure enough, he was a joy to be around. Like, he was so cool. He sat like, like really, like we were on the end of that corner. He was like across, like over on the wall. And so, getting to know him was really nice. Glenn McMillan from Ninja Storm was so cool to meet too. Yeah. Love that guy. I mean, yeah, so it was a great year. Great year.
Yeah. I know I kind of feel bad because we just recently did a show in Florida, and I met your Beast Morphers, and I think Avi and I we're pretty tight. Like, every time we get together, it's just like, oh my God, I miss you. How are you doing? Like, I don't talk to him outside of conventions or anything. I have his phone number, but I don't talk to him. But every time we get together, it's like, oh, it's been so long, and very kumbiotic, but I was like, AV, I have not seen your show. I
Saved by the Bell. Oh wait, Beast Morphers.
Yeah, I'm like Beast Morphers. I have not seen this show. I
Yeah,
have all the figures, but I have not seen it, and I'm like, I need to watch it. Same with Jazz too. I'm like, I haven't seen the show yet.
it is very, very well written. I mean, every one of those seasons has that stereotypical campy Ranger aspect of it.
Yeah.
But the writing in there is so great. Like, I mean, it's like Down Charge was awesome. Like they had a really well written season. Megaforce, a lot of people don't like, but like I like this cast. I loved seeing them morph into different, seasons of, people. But Beast Morphers just has this unique quality of it. It's just seems very advanced. They were able to do a lot with it, and I think Hasbro really proved themselves for that being their first series. Mm-hmm. So, and I know Abraham loves you too. He tells me, he's like, oh, Martha's great. It'd be awesome to have her at the show to help and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. No, like I say, when I meet people, it's best that I don't know what they've done. I did that with Carmen Arguzano. He was in quite a bit of different things. He was in big things, but I never looked him up. I did that show at StealthCon. I didn't look him up, and then when I did look him up on the last night, I saw he was on Bunheads. He was on all this stuff, and I was like, all right, now I have to talk to you about some stuff. Yeah. I just don't like to do that because I don't want to like fangirl, and I don't want to be that person because remember, we're in a professional space, so I treat them like anybody else. But it's funny that I've been watching your statuses about you watching some of the old Rangers and coming, trying to catch up. Props to you. I dropped off on Lost Galaxy. I remember this in middle school. It was right around middle school. I was actually dropping off after the end of Turbo. Yeah. And then I watched a little bit of In Space, and then I started to drop off. But when they announced the 6th Ranger, and then I saw Nemo, and I said, I got to watch this. That guy's hot. And now we're best friends. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then I dropped off after In Space. I said, Zordon's not here. I'm out. And then it wasn't until I met Kerrigan that he was like, oh, I'm in Lost Galaxy. So I watched Lost Galaxy. I powered through it. And I have not. But now that I've been working with other Rangers or we've, met up at different shows and like we just saw Philip Jean Marie, I'm like, I need to watch Wild Force because I've seen a little bit, but I don't.
Yeah. Well, and none of us necessarily have. It's hard, because we are in our careers. We're in our however old we are, and me, I'll be 35 in less than a month. Or sorry, a little bit over a month. But yeah. I'm so busy between my 40-hour-a-week job and then doing Studio 43 stuff. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to be able to watch, like just sit down and commit to watching television. So if you ever want, or like right now I'm kind of doing it like, and it's like I love Rangers, yes, but like I'm also doing it for how could I be better at marketing for these guys? Like, are there any key episodes that I should pull pictures from? That kind of thing, because I am starting to work a lot more with a lot different actors from different seasons. Yeah. And so I want to be able to put like 110% into it and make it better. So, but for someone like you, I would suggest doing it the way I did it. Like I watch key episodes, meaning premieres, 6 Ranger episodes, what is it? Team ups or anniversaries, and then finales. I mean, you'll get a good gist of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one thing to be able to watch a 6 Ranger become a Ranger, but then it's like, well, do I really care about episode 7 where the Blue Ranger has a bad day? Not necessarily, but you know what I mean? So it's that makes it easier to kind of know the franchise, in my opinion. So
yeah. All right, so let's talk about the birth of Studio 43. First of all, what's with the 43? Because I remember you were going through asking people for suggestions on names, but the 43 had to stay. So let's talk about the birth story of this company.
So that is a really funny story. It's 43 has been my favorite number for, I want to say, since I was in like 3rd or 4th grade. It's like I said, it's a funny story. So my 2 favorite shows back in the day were Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. Mm-hmm. They came on channel 43. Uh-huh. When AOL was around and Instant Messenger was around, my screen name was Angel Buff 43.
Mm-hmm.
I was not meeting the people that I wanted to necessarily meet with that screen name. But the number 43 kind of continued on into my life. I don't know. I took that number and I was using it in my passwords, and I was like, wow, that's a really cool number. And like, I would use it. I would just kind of draw it and doodle it and do things with it. And it's like, when I started, really doing freelance work, it's like, why don't I actually do Studio 43? And so I was kind of bouncing around that number and name, and it was like Studio 43 promotions, productions, designs. Like, what do I want to put in this, and so I was, should I say productions and designs, or just designs, 43 designs? I do a little photography. Should it be Studio 43 photography designs? So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it. So to kind of continue telling the story, I've got to go back to Ranger Stop. So when we were doing the getting the international guests, the one person that really made this kind of happen was John Toohey.
Mm-hmm.
John, he was, SPD Shadow Ranger and Solaris Knight in Mystic Force. So he was two different characters, and then went on to play, Cal Hobbs in Hobbs and Shaw. He was in Star Wars, a Star Wars story. He's currently on Young Rock. Well, our first initial conversation was kind of funny because he was flexing a little bit, like over Instagram. I was actually surprised that he answered my Instagram message because, he's been in so many huge properties. I just, like, again, John was another one who I was like, you know what? He would be a really cool guy to have at this. I wonder if he would even do it. So I just took a chance. Yeah. So I messaged him. He saw my message. He told me, and again, I say this not for clout, but just to kind of tell what happened. He felt like my message was sincere and professional, and it really made him want to work with me. So I was like, oh, great. I really appreciate you saying that, John. The thing about John is, it was funny. Like I said, he was flexing a little bit. He was like, I've done these properties too, right? I've done this too, right? And so it's like, it was like, yeah, man, like, we all appreciate that. And we know you're not just a Power Ranger, but like, it doesn't change the fact that, fans are here and would love to meet you. And so that's when he started to think, well, you know what? He's right. I have been doing a lot of these things, but Power Rangers was like, my first, and I should, I really want to give back to that community. And that's what he told me. So it's really cool because over that year of planning that, John and I got really close. Like, he is not the type of guy that likes to text or just, do a phone call. He wants to video chat with you and get to know you and, talk personally and, research and strategize stuff and just kind of talk to you when you're having a bad day. So that's what he and I have become really good friends, and not just like, business working people, But out of all that, he said, you know what, man, if you're down for it, I would love for you to be my appearance guy in the States. Like, that's what he says to me. B, you're my guy in the States, man. Hook it up. He's just, that's what he says. So he's like, I think you're really good at this. What would you think? And I said, well, I haven't done it before. I've seen other agents and what they do, and where they've kind of fallen short and what they've succeeded at, and so I guess I could try that. So I mean, and that's funny because it's like the only time he's been here. We are trying to get him back over here. It's just COVID happened, but we since then I met Brendan Mejia and Will Schufelt. I started working with those guys pretty regularly, and the one that I really wanted to work with, and not that I didn't want to work with anybody else, but the one that I was like, if someone asked me like, who could you see yourself working with next or whatever, it was Rory Travis. So Rory, I was like, I really want to talk to Rory. And so Rory, I said, hey man, I'm starting to do this whole booking thing. I said, I know you guys didn't get to do your big Power Morphicon signing because of COVID. What would you think about doing these store signings? And I was working with Jason Font too. The reason why I bring up Jason was because he kind of was the one, he and Steve Cardenas and Jason David Frank were the ones that really piloted the store signings during COVID. Like, they were the ones that really started doing it. I think Steve did it maybe a little bit first, and then I could be wrong, but like that's what it seemed like. If I'm tracking history correctly, that's kind of how it happened. Again, I could be wrong, but so that's where I was like, well, if they can do it, these guys can do it. So that's kind of where it started for me. Is like, I really, there wasn't a lot of people working with Rangers at that point. Like, you know, a lot of people were either going through their stuff or that, you know, they were concerned about COVID as well and stuff. And it's not that I wasn't concerned with it. It's just like, you know, there was a formula that was working during the time period, which I know we're still in it right now, but like at the beginning of it, I should say. But again, Rory was one that I really wanted to work with. And so I reached out to him, and it was kind of the same thing. He told me, he was like, wow, you really approached me with a professional and sincere message. And that's what made me respond to you and say, yeah, let's do it. Mm-hmm. So it was really funny though, because I got him on the phone finally, and it was him, and he answered, and he said, I distinctly remember he said, hey, and I'm like, hey, he said, sup, and I'm like, does he know it's me? I don't know. But then all of a sudden, Jazz gets on the phone. Jazz Bedwali, the Blue Beast Morpers Ranger, and it's funny because Jazz lives in Reno, and Rory lives in South Carolina. Yet they were somehow together. But I guess they were in LA I think it was when they were shooting all that stuff with the TikTok Rangers on TikTok. And that's when like Jazz kind of did the talking more than Rory. And that's when I was like, hey, this is what I've kind of got planned. This is what I've got going. What do you guys think about doing this? We'll start out here in the Midwest, in Indianapolis, and Chicago, and Ohio. And that's where it started. Like, that's where it really took off. So, yeah, it just kind of something that I fell into, and just, you know, like, again, it started just, you know, just do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean to sound like Nike, but I mean, it's just, you just got to be able to do it, you know? And you can't tell yourself no before someone else can tell you yes, you know? That defeats the whole purpose.
Yep, got to bank on yourself 100%.
Yep.
No, you've actually, it's so great to hear, like, all the pieces just kind of fell into place for you, and to, you know, make that happen. It just, you know, not many people can do that, you know, and you've actually persisted through and actually made it happen. I think that's fantastic. I think that's what every entrepreneur out there that's, you know, trying to get out there wants to achieve. So that's freaking awesome.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, you're not cliff diving, so your harness isn't going to break. Literally, the worst thing that can happen to you is to say no, and it's not going to kill you. You know what I mean? I mean, you just got to be mature enough to move on and move past it. If someone says no to you, that doesn't necessarily mean the other person is going to say no too. So
yeah. Well, I definitely want to share your screen here, or your Instagram. You have how many appearances for Comic Book Day? That's this weekend?
Yeah, so Free Comic Book Day is this Saturday. It's an event that happens every May, but of course, COVID happened, so we, you know, like Free Comic Book Day got moved to August 14th. So, yeah, I've got, there's events happening literally all over the country. You know, we've got Jazz, like you're showing there. We've got Jazz in Sacramento and Reno. We finally got him at a signing in Reno. Rory's doing 3 appearances that weekend. We've got Christina Ho, who played Betty on Power Rangers Beast Morphers. Up one. She's doing her very first appearance in Burbank at the Perky Nerd.
I gotta go to the Perky Nerd.
I know, shout out to Perky Nerd, like, you know, and I at some point, you know, like, you know, comic book stores, like, you know, I feel like they are kind of geared toward men in a sense. At sometimes, maybe I'm wrong for saying that, but like, I love how the Perky Nerd is a little bit more female, at least from the pictures that I've seen and talking to the owner. It's kind of like more for like women, you know what I mean? Like, because it's good to have, you know, something that's good for both, but it's really cool to see that, you know what I mean? I've in doing a lot of this, it's really neat to meet like female comic book store owners, because when we think about comic book stores, it's like sometimes it's like, you know, it's just, you know, older men or something, you know what I mean? And it's really nice to see others that, you know, it's not just that way. And, you know, it's great. So, but yeah, we've got Roger Velasco. It's going to be his first ever signing in Dallas. So that's amazing.
We are excited over here. I had to go order him a bunch of prints on Friday when this dropped. I was out of town, but I was talking to you about it, and Roger's like, I need all these prints. Like, I just realized, you know, the last signing we did, the one you facilitated at Fats Collectibles, he's like, we need group pictures. We need this. We need that. So I ordered a bunch. Like, we spent $150 on this. We're getting ready for Texas. I'm not going to be in Texas this weekend, but he is so excited because this is his first appearance there. For some reason, we have tried to get into Texas, and no one has wanted us. I don't know why. Brandon, you're up. I'm
Yeah,
passing that on to you. You get us in another Texas show.
yeah. Well, and hopefully by the time this airs, there's a
Yeah.
possibility of a second location, but we'll post that up if we can get that to work. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's at least Titan Comics there in Dallas on Forest Land. They're gonna have him. They're excited to have him.
Yeah.
And then we got Selwyn. So that's a big one too. If you're watching and you were planning on meeting Selwyn at the East Loop location, that's moved to the mall.
Okay.
Like it's not at that location. It's I reposted it.
There
Yep.
you go.
Yep, there we go. Right there. That's the correct location. He's going to be in the Santa Clara location just because they get a little bit more foot traffic, and it'll just be, I think, a better location to have him. It's bigger. So
I love Selwyn. I just got off the phone with him the other day. He's funny.
Yeah.
I miss him. And then of course, I'm not here for this. I am so pissed. I'm actually going to Vegas this weekend, but I need to see Michael Mays. I feel like I've talked to Michael Mays through Roger at one point, but like I actually had okay, well I can talk about it now because it happened a long time ago. Ranger Stop. So when Michael Mays, did you find Michael Mays the first time for Ranger Stop? Was that your doing?
Nah, sort of. I helped him get his prints, but it was Patrick David. Patrick was already coming. So okay, so let me rewind that. So we were kind of talking about guests for that year, and Mikey and I were like, he was like, well, I'm bringing Patrick, and I'm like, well, Dave Mosser wanted to bring a guest, and he wanted to bring Justin Nimmo. That was already there, and I had actually known Wally Winger because I was talking to him, kind of trying to talk to him about Power Morphicon in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not able to go. I can't remember why. I think he didn't have anybody to watch his dog, and it was like he lived kind of far away from Anaheim, so it was hard for him to get away. Yeah. So, but he invited my wife and my wife and I out to dinner that weekend, and he invited us back to his house.
Mm-hmm.
Wally is an awesome guy. He's just so nice, so personable. We'll literally talk to you for hours and hours, and not in a bad way. Like, you love hearing his stories about working with Jay Leno and everything. I mean, he's such a nice guy. And he invited us over to his house, so we had a friendship there. Well, when Mikey and I were talking about guests that year, Patrick told Mikey, he was like, well, Michael Mays and I are still friends. We still talk. And I'm like, well, I'm friends with Psycho Blue. Like, why don't we just have a big Psycho Ranger reunion and, have the guys out? I actually was talking to Vicki Davis, who did the voice of Psycho Pink. I was talking to her agency, and she was not available that weekend, but I'm hoping that maybe we can get her at a convention sometime too. So, but that's what made that year, for the Psychos awesome as well.
Well, Jared's going to be here, so I'm going to send him on my behalf to go get that I have the Psychos, the set, the all 5 Psychos.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to go get that signed. So Jared will be attending without me. I'm really bummed. And of course, my favorite, Philip Jean-Marie. I love how he makes fun of his own name.
Is that how he? I mean, I feel bad for asking this because I'm repping him, but like, is that how he told you he pronounces it?
He does. He's like, I have such a pompous name. I've heard him say this twice already. And I've heard when he was talking to a fan, he's like, Philip Jean-Marie. And I was like, what the fuck? Okay, Philip. And no, Philip Jean-Marie, I guess. But he added that little fancy twist to it. I was like, oh, Lord.
I find it funny, too, that he spells his name with 2 L's. And I think Philip, if you spell Philip, because my dad's name's Philip, if you spell the first name Philip, it's 1 L, and the last name Philip is supposed to be 2 L's. But then his name is Philip with 2 L's, and then Deborah Estelle Phillips, her name is her last name is 1 L. So I think it's like reverse with both of them.
That's crazy. Well,
yeah.
I don't know. Well, anyway, he's going to be there at We Can Be Heroes. I have not been to this place, but I know I have another colleague of mine who does signings over there. It's supposed to be a great place. I wish I was going to be there for that, so I'm really bummed.
Well, I do want to set Roger and Michael up for a signing at some point as well. So.
Hell yes. Let's make that happen.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Let's do it. Let's see. Well, when we did the show in Brooklyn, I actually, Nemo was there. I was like, yo, Nemo, call Michael. Let's see if we can get together at one point. I think he was out of town, but we couldn't make it happen because I think he was living in Brooklyn at the time, and I don't think he lives there anymore. So
Michael?
yeah.
Yeah, he lives in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack and Will, they both live in Florida, so we got him set up at Acme Superstore. Josh Dinkins, the owner there, shout out to that guy. He great guy. He was actually looking for an event for Free Comic Book Day, and we kind of dropped that on him, and he's so excited to have Jack and Will there. So, you know, I hopefully MegaCon doesn't conflict too much with that appearance.
Ooh, that's right.
Yeah.
And then this Purple Ranger.
Yes, Claire, she's so great. You know, we talked today. She's excited to be doing more signings, and yeah, she's great. So
Yeah,
you know, she went home. It's funny because she lives in New York City, but I was like, hey, doing Free Comic Book Day signings, you interested in doing one? She said, well, I'm not going to be in New York that weekend. I'm like, where are you going? She said, I'm going home to Idaho. So I was like, well, hey, let's set you up for one in Idaho. And she was like, okay. So yeah, she's going to be signing in her hometown there. So
how long does that take to actually go through, scour that location, and just pick up the phone and have that conversation with someone? Be like, hey, have you ever done a comic book day? Have you ever done a signing? Like, how are these owners like? Because this is a huge feat. I think, what did you say? 6 states?
Yeah, 6 states. There's like 15 rangers or 14 rangers out there. Yeah, it's basically me. I mean, like what I do, you know, and I kind of learned this from Font. I mean, I hope he's okay. Well, maybe I should not say that, but I kind of got the secret from him. Like he basically just, you know, he's, you know, I try to compare both Google and Yelp reviews, kind of see what's the best one in town, which one has the best reviews, because, well, actually I say which one has the most reviews, and I look obviously see what their quality is, but like, if you have the most reviews, that means they get the most foot traffic. So it's like, well, let's give them a call, see what they think about having signings. But that's not necessarily always the best. Like, you know, with, you know, there was one, I won't say who, but there was one where I called like the top 3 stores in a city, and none of them wanted to have anything. They were like, oh, we're not really doing anything, and we just don't want to. And so I was like, okay. Yeah. So, and then I kind of did more research about the city and kind of, you know, and I ended up finding a place that was a little bit further down the list, but I found out that that's where like a lot of pop culture was. And so we were able to make a signing happen there. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And also, this was a big shock to everybody yesterday. Jim Gray is doing his first appearance.
Yeah. So I got to give a shout out to my buddy Blake Davenport for that one. He is the guy that works with Jeffrey Dolan. And, you know, he does the Storm Club on Facebook. He got in touch with Morphin Network, you know, Ryan and those guys, and said, hey, you know, I've made friends with Jim Gray, which is hilarious because some of us, like, you know, like when in my kind of searches to try to see if people want to do this, I thought that I had found Jim, and it was an old British rocker guy that wasn't Jim. And I was like, okay, well, that's not the right Jim. And then all of a sudden, Ryan from Morphin Network was like, hey, Blake and I, you know, Blake found Jim. He's a realtor in New York. He's going to be on Morphin Network. Do you want to talk to him and meet him? And I was like, yeah. Because me, like I said, I care about everybody. I'm not just a Mighty Morphin or nothing guy. You know, I like working with everybody. Well, I guess he technically is Mighty Morphin because he's an Alien Ranger, but still, I had said, you know, like, well, yeah, let's put me in contact. So he and I kind of had a video conversation and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. And he, you know, like, it's been a little bit, I've been trying to get him a show, you know, but I finally got him one, and yeah, that's his first signing. So it's gonna be awesome.
Awesome. I know Jared was like, what the hell? Like, he's like, the yellow Alien Ranger. I was like, yeah. And I said, I haven't gotten the tea on that one yet. I'll ask tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is exciting. So yeah, Jared was going nuts over that.
Yeah.
You need to find Lieutenant Stone and Mr. Kaplan. I don't know if Mr. Kaplan's alive or not, but
you know, I asked Royce about that.
Royce too.
She's like, you know, I think he's alive. I just haven't talked to him, is what she said.
Yeah.
So yeah, Lieutenant Stone is one that's out there. I know. I feel like somebody showed me a social media or something from him. But another one that people have been wanting is Miss Fairweather from Lightspeed Rescue, the assistant to the captain lady. She has a podcast out there on Instagram, And I know that she, like I don't think she's out there as far as like cons go, but she's another one that I'm thinking about reaching out to as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. You are definitely well on your way. I think I feel like I almost feel like it's a resurgence because I know that there's, we've seen people come and go in this agent world,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I feel like you're onto something. I feel like there's, because some people are just a flash in the pan. You see them, then they disappear, and then, but I don't know. I have a different feeling with you, Brandon. I think you're onto something. So.
Well, I appreciate that. And, I'm trying to do this drama free. I try,
Yeah.
like obviously, you've dabbled in booking. And so it's like, it seems like in the past, there's been a lot of animosity.
I've gotten into my fair share of fights. Let's just say that.
And I said to myself doing this, it's like, that's not who I want to be. And so it's like, that's why I'm glad I have a relationship with you. I'm glad, that we can work together. You allow me to get stuff for Roger, and that's an amazing thing. It's for me, I'm just trying to make it all about the actors and not about me. I mean, that's why I don't like to put my logo on things, like, just because it's like I want them to be the one that's like, hey, they're in the spotlight. They're going to be at this store. We want you to support this Power Ranger in this store.
Yeah.
In this, Studio 43. Hey, like that's kind of between me and the stores and me and the actors. Like that's, fans don't necessarily, I appreciate the fans. Don't get me wrong. Like I appreciate people telling me I'm doing a good job with what I'm doing, but again, it's just business, what I mean, at the end of the day. And that's what, that's kind of how I feel about it. So,
and that's the one thing I did notice about all of your postings is like, he didn't put his logo on there. And I said, there's got to be a reason for it. And you know me, because, when it comes to appearances, I don't slap the logo on everything. Well, with Roger stuff, I don't. Just because, I don't know. I have a weird thing about that. But like appearances that I've actually thrown money into the people that are coming, and then I'm like, hell yeah, put my logo on it. But it's I noticed that, and I was like, there's got to be a reason why he's not doing that, because it's another marketing aspect. But I like the way you think about it. It's about, and this is, I have said this from the beginning because I've been in this Power Ranger world. I have gone through this, and I have seen people that have been trying to work with Rangers, and they make it about themselves. And one of the reasons why they were not successful is because they made it about themselves, not the Ranger. You're there to support the Ranger. And so I've seen a lot of people fail because of that.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to like mention any names, but like in the past, I have had like logo arguments, like, hey, my logo needs to be on there. Well, my logo also needs to be on there. And Brandon, your logo should also be on there too. It's like, so at one point I feel like I was putting like 3 logos on a flyer, and I'm like, okay, who's really looking at these little things in the bottom? You know what I mean? And like, who needs to see it? I feel like, in my opinion, if someone's going to work with me, like through the Studio 43 name, it's like, we can negotiate that in person. We can do the handshake. I can hand you my business card, whatever. It doesn't necessarily need to be out there for clout. It doesn't necessarily need to be out there for, like for that reason, I guess. Like I said, like before, I want the Ranger to be there. I want the actor to be there. They're the ones who I'm hoping that makes the money. And then, I want, the convention or the comic book store to be there because I want them to make money. I want to support them. I want to support all those guys. You know what I mean? Like I try to put myself last. You know what I mean? It's just the way I think about things. So, but
so smart.
Yeah, and ultimately, like I said, I just want to build a rapport and build a great relationship with people. I've got another agent who, he voices, or he manages a ton of voice acting talent, and it's one of those things where it's like I tried to connect him with a store owner a couple weeks ago, and it's like I don't necessarily need to book that person myself. I want that person to be successful with their clients. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't mind giving somebody a phone number, or, even helping them out with, getting contact information for whatever they need. Like I said, I care about, them being successful and everything. So, yeah.
I actually approached at Robo Toy Fest. I approached an agency that I had seen online and stuff. And I actually approached them about a talent for a private signing. And I'm like, instead of going, and this is the thing, people go to the agent, not the talent. And I think they respected that. They're like, how do you know us? Like, tell us who you are and stuff. And so they were super cool. They gave me what I needed. They gave me their cards and everything. Like, I'm like, more agencies need to be acting like this, and to actually not be, you know, because I was like, this could go either way. They could be like, get the fuck out of here, or, you know, we can be cool. So that, I mean, you're going about it the right way. So I applaud that. I really do.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes with agents, when they're like my baby type of mentality, like I feel like it actually can cost their client money. Like, you know, to be honest.
I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Oh, we need an after dark.
Right.
Oh, to spill all the tea. I've sat here and I've watched people just flame out because of it. I've seen people burn bridges over it. It's like, this is not worth it. You're losing your reputation. I think a lot of people lose themselves in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Brandon, where can people find you?
Oh man, so let's see. I have a website, studio43pd.com. It's not just for booking; it's also for my graphic design part of the business as well. You know, I do a lot from logos and websites and everything you need. But then also, if you know you're a convention owner or store owner or promoter or whatever, you know, you can find a list of my clients there. You can find me on Instagram at studio43pd. My Facebook page is a little bit weird right now. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with that, but same thing, Facebook, Studio 43PD, and then Twitter and LinkedIn the same way. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Brandon. I appreciate it. And this is going on YouTube, and then it goes on to our podcast streaming services like iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, all that. So
fantastic.
You're going to be everywhere.
Hey, I try.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I appreciate it. I'm glad we could finally able to do this.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we got to do this. I was excited. Now I'm glad.
No, I'm glad. I love talking to people and listening to their stories. And like I said, you're well on your way. I have a good feeling. I really do.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much. And we'll see you in the next episode, whenever that will be. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.